Good morning, America. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network's Live Desk. I'm Robert McNeely. We hope you had a wonderful weekend with those you love. Now, in November, just a gorgeous time of year, a bit crisper out there. We hope that falling back in the time does not throw you off too much. It's a mixed bag of potato chips when it comes to people's opinions on it, but we'll see if President Trump addresses that in the future. We know now on October 1st, a government shutdown occurring because of Minority Leader, the senator from New York City, Chuck Schumer, his House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, Mr. No Hips himself, all causing this reckless pain for countless public service workers and perhaps longer lines at the airports this week and getting into the Thanksgiving holiday. So be sure to go just a little bit earlier to those busy airports. 34 days of this last government shutdown from 2018 to 2019, 35 days in total. We anticipate Speaker Mike Johnson holding a press conference at the top of the hour with House Republican leadership, which they have done on a near daily basis, covering what is very black and white. They passed a clean CR to keep the government open for 7 weeks to continue this debate from the House. The Senate has filibustered this, and all they need are 5 additional common sense Democrats to come across the aisle. That's not happening there. President Trump calling for the end of the filibuster as a result of this. But as he enjoyed Halloween and a little bit of golf around countless meetings and telephone calls and working over the weekend, President Trump from the Southern White House en route back from PBI to Joint Base Andrews did a press gaggle, and we have that all ready for you now for that playback.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Hope you had a nice weekend.
We did.
Everyone good?
How are you doing? Do you have
I'm good. I guess we're doing 60 Minutes tonight, but I'm not sure we're going to be in the plane. We may be midstream, we'll see. But I think they did a good job. We'll let you know. We'll see how they cut it. So, do you have any questions?
On Nigeria, just wanted to ask you, do you envisage US boots on the ground?
Could be. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Mr. President, what's going on with Russian assets, would you say? Are you going to use those as a negotiating tool? What's Europe saying on the frozen Russian assets? So what are you planning to do?
This is a totally different question than Nigeria,
yes,
so right?
Different.
That was quite a turn. I'm not doing that. What happens is, I guess Europe and Russia are having discussions. I'm not involved in those discussions.
Will your administration provide Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles? Is that something that you're not considering that?
No, not really.
Mr. President, on Friday,
Could happen. I could change, but at this moment, I'm not.
What would be the final straw for you that proves that Putin is really not ready to end this?
What?
What would be the final straw for you that proves that Putin is really not ready to end this war in Ukraine?
There's no final straw. Sometimes you have to let it fight out. They're fighting it out. It's been a tough war for Putin. He's lost a lot of soldiers, maybe 1 million. That's a lot of soldiers. And it's been tough for Ukraine. It's been tough for both. Sometimes you have to let it, just get bought out. We have, I've settled 8 wars. I thought that one would be easier than some of the ones we settled. And by the way, we got 3 hostages back. The hostages were so sad. We're talking about dead bodies, which people call hostages, but I don't know what you'd call them. I spoke to the parents. We got Nutra, from New York and from the United States, and I spoke to his parents, and they're thrilled in one sense, but in another sense, obviously, it's not too great. But we're very happy to have done it. We got 3 bodies back today that they found, and we're looking for the remainder of the bodies.
Are you going to the Supreme Court on Wednesday?
What?
Are you going to go to the Supreme Court for the tariffs?
No, decision, one of the most important decisions in the history of our country. Because without tariffs, without our being able to use tariffs freely, openly, and in every way, we would suffer tremendously from a national security standpoint. The national security of our country is at stake. It's the biggest, I think it's one of the biggest decisions in the history of the Supreme Court. Other countries use tariffs against us. If we weren't able to openly and freely use tariffs against them, I'll give you an example. China. That was going to be a disaster for the world, and I was able to settle it very quickly, very easily, because I was able to use tariffs. It's total national security. And economic health is also part of national security, by the way. But without tariffs, our country would be in great jeopardy.
So will you attend the oral arguments at
No, I don't think so, because I don't want to call a lot of attention to me. It's not about me, it's about our country. I'll be going to Miami. I'm going to make a speech in front of a large group of people in Miami, and said I wanted to go so badly. I just don't want to do anything to deflect the importance of that decision. If we don't have tariffs, we don't have national security. And the rest of the world would laugh at us because they've used tariffs against us for years and took advantage of us. And you see what's happened. We've become wealthy. Our stock market hit a record high on Friday. A record high. It's hit 48 record highs during my term. And a large part of that's because of tariffs and our good trade deals. Without that, you couldn't make a good trade deal. And you know, we were subject to being abused by a lot of other countries, including China, for years. Not anymore. Tariffs have brought us tremendous national security.
Venezuela. Is there a deadline for Venezuela to act against these alleged drug gangs?
I don't ever set deadlines. I do what I do, but I don't set whether it's Venezuela or anything else. I don't set deadlines.
You said that it's not true that you've made a decision on striking in Venezuela, but are there actual plans for those strikes in the near future?
Well, how can I answer a question like that? Are there plans for a strike on Venezuela? Who would say that? Supposing there were, would I say that to you honestly? Yes, we have plans. We have very secret plans. Who would say that? You know, what kind of a question is it? Look, we'll see what happens with Venezuela. Venezuela sent us thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people from prisons, from mental institutions, drug addicts, and so did other countries. That's the bad. I mean, other countries did it too, because we were run by very stupid people, very, very stupid people. Biden was the worst president in the history of our country by far. We had open borders, and many countries, the Congo, many countries, they sent their prisoners. They sent prisoners. They sent drug dealers. They sent drug addicts. They sent anybody that they didn't want. They sent them through our country. And Venezuela was one of the worst abusers. So.
Saying that the way that this shutdown ends is if you directly engage in negotiating a deal on extending these ACA subsidies.
Well, all they have to do is open up the country. You know, we voted 14 times to open the country. We have voted 14 times to open the country, and they vote to keep it closed. All they have to do is vote to open the country, and we only need 5 Democrats. They have a lot of Democrats. We only need 5. But the Republicans have voted 14 times to open the country.
You directed your lawyers on Snap. You directed your lawyers on Snap benefits. You put out that True Social post on Friday, directing your lawyers to look into whether or not you can move around funds. What did they get back to you to find out if you can pay?
It's a much easier situation than that. If they vote to open the country and it's opened up immediately, we don't even have to think about that.
Mr. President, I wanted to ask about Prince Andrew in the UK has had his royal titles stripped away because of the Epstein scandal. I know you're close to the royal family there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I feel very badly. I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That's been a tragic situation. And it's too bad. I mean, I feel badly for the family.
Mr. President, are you still planning to meet with Jensen Huang? Have you spoken with him after your talk? Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, the CEO of NVIDIA?
Yeah, I've spoken to him. What about it?
So are you planning to meet with him? You said when you were...
I mean, look, he's one of the great geniuses of our time. His chips are 10 years ahead of anybody else's. And, I meet with him all the time. It's a great American company. It's now the biggest company in the world. So what would you like to know? I mean, NVIDIA is really just a brilliant company. The chips are 10 years. The new Blackwell that just came out, it's 10 years ahead of every other chip. But there's nothing to meet with other than say, congratulations. But no, we don't give that chip to other people.
Are you meeting with the Syrian president?
We don't give that chip to other people.
Are you meeting with the Syrian president at the White House? Or did you invite him? The Syrian president? The Syrian president?
He may be coming. I don't know. I mean, he's working very hard. We took sanctions off of Syria to give them a chance at survival. And I hear he's doing a very good job. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to try and watch 60 Minutes, but I may be delayed. Let's see if they treat me better than they treat other people. Although, I do say this, they treated Kamala very well.
You're going to watch it
In fact, they changed her answers.
You're going to watch it here, Mr. President.
I will try, but we may land just as it starts, right? It's very split second. But thank goodness for TiVo, or something thereof, right? TiVo.
We're a big fan.
We love TiVo. We love TiVo. One of my favorite, one of the greatest inventions in history. Have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And with that, President Trump really clearly disturbed about 14 times attempted to pass something through the Senate. We saw the impassioned speech of Senate Majority Leader John Thune, as well as we'll see Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republican leadership moments from now on day 34 of this shutdown. Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. They have extended their 40% off mebendazole special. Now that October was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. If you scan the QR code there, this could be the life-saving anti-parasitic off-label use that is just needed for your family. And for many of us having experienced this big C word in one way or the other, many women and some men will face this terrible breast cancer disease. So Breast Cancer Awareness Month still on our minds. Families are searching for hope, for an ability to have that right to try in the most favored nation status. So with this administration and Health and Human Services working together to make America healthy again, All Family Pharmacy believes that you have that choice, that right to choose ultimately, whether it is the generics or affordable pharmaceuticals, and the freedom to explore what might be what's best for you and your loved ones. They make the process simple. A licensed doctor will consult with you, and you only need a pharmaceutical note. No red tape, no bureaucracy, no insurance. It's not an issue. With allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Again, 40% off of mebendazole for breast cancer awareness. Thank you as well to Monetary Gold. It's wealth, security, preservation, all there laid out for you to protect you, because the storm is building beneath the United States dollar. The BRICS nations, friends and foes, quite frankly, even with the leadership and the tariffs implemented by President Trump, are seeking to divest from the United States dollar. So where does that leave you in your securities and savings? Grab your complimentary presidential gold guide today. Not one plan fits all. So this team of experts can help work with you specifically, whether it's purchasing the first or second property or just expanding on that generational wealth that's so wanting to be achieved in this American day and age. RSBNforthegold.com. For years, signs have been very clear, but most Americans ignore them. Now the storm is brewing beneath, at gold going over $4,000 an ounce since January 20th, when President Trump reclaimed the second term. Silver passed 50. It's a bull market for these hot commodities. Call today. Do not delay. 888-617-7994. Ask how to eliminate your annual IRA fees permanently and for life. When governments spend beyond their means and they print money and inflation goes to the roof, gold and silver do quite well. And the world banks, the central banks, buying up gold and silver right now. There's a reason for that. So wealth, security, preservation, get ahead of this economic storm by visiting rsbn4thegold.com, the best in the business. It's monetary gold. Call today. Don't delay. 888-617-7994. Again, thank you to Monetary Gold for your sponsorship on the right side of history. And President Trump laying out that great interview he did last night, marking the most accomplished beginning of a second term and 9 months of any presidency in the modern era. He truly has become, especially post the APEC trip, the ASEAN conference, meeting with those Indo-Pacific nations, and then that big deal prior to the trip last week with Australia. This is the Teddy Roosevelt of our time. We'll highlight these remarkable successes throughout countless different topics, all made ready and available by what the White House is arguing. There's no one better than this commander-in-chief. And quite simply, in specific regards to immigration, but on a mountain of different topics facing the United States, truly it was the change you put into place almost 1 year ago today on November 5th of 2024. We simply needed to change our president from the auto pen back to Donald John Trump. President Trump made clear to Democrats reopening the government to work with him to keep America on the path to even greater security and prosperity is of the most important agenda item today in the federal city. We'll hear from House Speaker Mike Johnson moments from now and House Republican leadership. Now, here are the top moments you may have missed from this interview last night. On ending the Democrat shutdown, President Trump stating, "We keep voting." I mean, the Republicans are voting almost unanimously to end this, and the Democrats keep voting against it. They have lost their way. On Obamacare. Now, Obamacare is terrible. It's bad health care at far too high a price. We should fix it. We should fix it, and we can fix it with the Democrats. So if they want to come together, we could see that there. Now, President Trump continuing, all they have to do is let the country open. And I'll sit down with the Democrats and we'll fix it. On healthcare specifically, which is truly on the mind and forefront of most Americans, regardless of Republican, Democrat, Independent, or any ideology. The American people very, very, very geared in towards these high prices. We can make it much less expensive for people and give them a much better health care system. And I'd be willing to work with the Democrats on it. The problem is they want to give money to prisoners, drug dealers, all these millions of people that were allowed to come in with an open border from Joe Biden. And nobody can do that. Not one Republican would ever do that. And that's really the whole point of this dialogue and debate. For some reason, the Democrats want to shut down the government, keep it held hostage because of a radical base, because Senator Chuck Schumer, who's been in Congress since 1981, beginning in the House of Representatives, is worried about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the darling of the far left, in running against him in 2028 for the United States Senate seat. So they're kowtowing to that, all to fund illegal aliens. They're also not used to Republicans having a backbone in Congress. It's just not something that's really happened in the last quarter century, probably post the Gingrich speakership. They chose not to fight back. They were rather weak during the Bush years, extraordinarily weak during the Obama years. And President Trump showed them a way to fight, and win on a legislative level. And now you have this Speaker, Mike Johnson, who has probably been one of the best speakers with such a narrow majority, only 219 in his caucus, to deal with these Democrats who do not want to sit down at the table and even negotiate. Now, on illegal immigration, and this is what's surrounding so much of this debate, President Trump stating last night that the policy has to be you came into the country illegally, you're going to go out. However, you're also seen in going to go out. We're going to work with you, and you're going to come back into our country legally. And that's why there's been a record number of self-deportations, including a financial stipend in the form of $1,000 to $2,000 checks in order to help assist with that. A very gracious thing that this country has done for those seeking to do it the right way. As the pool camera is turning there is the House Speaker. We'll go live now to Washington, D.C.
Good morning, everyone. We're on day 34 of the Democrat shutdown. Day 34. It's now officially the second longest shutdown in U.S. history. And we wanted to just have a simple exercise with you this morning to go through just a couple of important facts. There is such a staggering amount of gaslighting and false information that Democrats are engaging in right now. And so we thought it would be useful to just this morning, in a very brief and concise manner, separate fact from fiction. So I'm just going to go through 4 false claims that you have heard over and over and over, and just explain once more what the simple truth is. Meredith, let me see the first slide here. Here's the first one. The obviously false claim of the Democrats is that Republicans have closed the government. I've heard them say this myself. You've all seen it in interviews. They're blaming the shutdown on the Republicans, and it is patently absurd. The next slide will show you the simple fact. The obvious fact that everyone can see, it is Republicans who have voted to open the government 14 times. Now remember how this came about. Back in September 19th in the House, Republicans in the House voted to open the government, the clean continuing resolution to keep everything in operation. Every Democrat except one in the House voted to close the government. But we still passed it because we have the majority. And so we sent that bill over to the Senate. And 13 different occasions, 13 times, the Democrats have voted to close the government. Republicans voted yes every time to open it. Republicans in the Senate and the House voted to keep the lights on, to pay service members and our troops who are in harm's way, Border Patrol agents, TSA, air traffic controllers, all federal workers. They voted to ensure that women, infants, and children nutrition programs continue and that SNAP benefits continue to go to the American families who are in need. But by contrast, the Democrats have voted no every single time. And what is outrageous to us is that they have gone onto the Senate floor. Senate Democrats, they have voted no. They have voted to close the government. And then they have gone out to the hall, to the nearest camera they can find. And they have looked into the lens and said, Republicans are shutting down the government. It makes no sense. It's the most extreme example of gaslighting in the history of American politics. And many in the media have allowed them to get away with that. It's shameful. Let me show you another obviously false claim. Obviously false claim number 2 of the Democrats is that Republicans are being unreasonable. Well, here's the fact. Let me see the next one. The fact is very simple. Republicans are refusing to accept the Democrats' outrageous demands. Now, why do we say that? Now, remember, the Republicans passed a clean continuing resolution. It was nonpartisan. It was a simple bill that would open the full government, and we could do that today. If they would pass that today, with 0 strings attached, everything would be flowing again and the government would work. Importantly, remember that we offered that CR in good faith. And why do we say that? Because it was offered after a bipartisan, bicameral negotiation between both chambers. Because you see, you had the appropriators, Republican and Democrat appropriators, who got together and decided, they agreed on the need for a short-term CR so that they could continue their negotiations on the full-year funding bills. But this is something Democrats have spoken passionately about and acted upon many times in the past. We've recounted here every day. 13 different occasions in the Biden administration, they passed continuing resolutions. They did it most recently in March of this year when Chuck Schumer, 10 Senate Democrats, including the leader, Schumer, voted for the CR and told us how important that was. The CR that's on the table right now and has been sitting there for 45 days is nearly identical to the one that they voted on in March. But shockingly, this is the big thing. In addition to their refusal to support the CR and reopen the government, the Democrats have had the audacity to also demand something new. They demanded $1.5 trillion with a T in new spending obligations in exchange for the simple funding resolution. They filed on paper in the Senate record back in September, and it still sits there as their counterproposal. They would spend $1.5 trillion of your taxpayer funds. Included in that is nearly $200 billion of taxpayer funds that they want to use to restore free health benefits to illegal aliens. They want to spend billions in wasteful left-wing spending projects in foreign countries on things like LGBTQ plus awareness, in the Horn of Africa, all sorts of things. I could give you a long list, and we've said it here before. They want to spend $500 million to prop up left-leaning news organizations. And shockingly, in that same proposal, as their ransom for reopening the government, they want to cut $50 billion from the rural hospital fund that the Republicans just got signed into law on July 4th. That is the bill that they filed that shut down the government. And every American can see that for themselves. So their claim about Republicans being responsible is laughable. Let me go to the third one. False claim number 3, Democrats are fighting for health care. You've heard this over and over and over. Let me say something very simply about this false claim. It is the Democrats who created Obamacare. It is the Democrats who did that without any Republican votes. It's the Democrats who, by extension, have cost the American taxpayers and people who have health insurance have made their costs skyrocket. It is their policies that made that happen. And so instead of reforming it, the Democrats don't reform Obamacare. They want to subsidize it. They want to spend more taxpayer dollars. That, by the way, goes mostly to insurance companies, which makes the cost rise further. That's the Democrats' plan. When they passed Obamacare in 2010, they called it the Affordable Care Act. We know the truth is exactly the opposite. By some estimates, premiums have risen 60% in many categories since they passed that bill into law. Now, the fact is the opposite. Republicans are the ones fighting to save health care. Why? It's not just talking points to us. We do this. We have ideas, and we have already implemented ideas and measures to reduce costs, increase access and quality, and eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. Now, why do we say it's not just a talking point? Why do we say the Republican Party is the only one advancing common sense reform solutions? Because we've proven it. We did that in the big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut. We took a look at Medicaid, and we took on that challenge. We took action to reduce fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid. We got able-bodied young men without dependents off the program. We got illegal aliens off the program, and we saved $185 billion just to start. We got millions of ineligible enrollees off the program, and it preserved it. It strengthened Medicaid for the people who rely upon it, which is the elderly, disabled, and young pregnant women, as we always use as an example. No, it's not about health care. That is a false claim, and everybody knows it. Everyone in America, and certainly everybody in this room, understands that this is about something else. What this is about fear. The Schumer shutdown was never about health care. That's a distraction. It's a red herring, as we say in debate club. Okay? This is about fear. And what is the fear? The resolution on the COVID-era Obamacare subsidy issue was always going to be slated for debate in October, November, and December. Everybody knows that, and every Democrat knows that. It's an issue that's too complex to be solved on a short-term funding measure like a CR. They know that very well. This is about fear. Everybody in the country is watching the elections that will happen tomorrow. You got big elections in New Jersey and Virginia, the governor's races and attorney general's races, et cetera. But all the attention is focused primarily on New York City. Why? Because the fear that Mamdani and all that he represents will be risen to power, that he'll be elected the mayor of America's largest city, the once cradle of capitalism, that we're going to have a Marxist, a communist running the largest city. Now this terrifies the establishment old guard Democrats in Washington. And the leaders of both chambers are among those most terrified. They're both from New York. Leader Hakeem Jeffries is the Democrat in the House, and Leader Schumer in the Senate. They're both from New York, and they're terrified. You've watched their actions carefully. Many of you have not reported on it enough. Poor Hakeem Jeffries had to finally, he was forced to endorse Mamdani. And he's terrified that he now owns the results of that. Chuck Schumer's been dancing around the issue, but he knows he's darned if he does, darned if he doesn't. They're both terrified, and so that is the fear. This is a fact, and you should print it this way. The Schumer and Jeffries and their colleagues fear political retribution from the far-left activists in their party more than they fear the consequences of keeping the government closed for weeks on end. They fear that personally for their own political future, and they care more about that than they care about SNAP benefits flowing to hungry families, about air traffic controllers being paid so they can keep the skies safe, Border Patrol troops, and all the rest. It pales in comparison, and this is a simple summary that is a simple fact. It is extremism on the left that is the direct cause of American suffering right now. One more fact. The obviously false claim number 4 this morning is that Republicans are responsible for all this pain. It's just a nonsensical statement. It's a nonsensical statement because the fact is very clear. This is about math. Republicans need at least 7 Democrats to join it. So we only have 53 Republicans in the Senate. It takes 60 votes to reopen the government in the Senate. The House did its job September 19th. We're waiting on the Senate to get this done. Leader John Thune and the Republicans have bent over backwards. They've done everything they can. You saw his frustration and his anger boil up on the floor at the end of last week. A normally calm, pretty steady leader, very steady leader. We're all angry about this because we're sick of what they're doing. They're using the American people as pawns, as leverage, and that is the word that so many of them have used. We could name senator after senator, House member after House member, from the leadership ranks all the way down to rank and file on the Democrat side. They have admitted openly they're using the American people as leverage in this political game. They're motivated out of fear. They want to show a fight to the radical left so they don't lose their political seats, and they're willing to make the American people suffer for it. That is the fact. This is about math. Republicans have to have at least 7 Democrats. We need 5 more. 5 more moderate, centrist, common sense people who care more about the constituents they serve and the country that they supposedly serve than their own political futures and the retribution they'll receive from the Marxist, Mandami, communist left in the party if they do the right thing here. I wish these weren't the facts. I take no pleasure in telling you this. It is disgusting to us. But there's no other way to candy coat this, to make it any prettier than it is. So we're now entering the 5th week of this Democrat shutdown, and it's for one reason. Democrats made a deliberate choice to keep the government closed. The shutdown will only end when those same Democrats make a deliberate choice to open it. The entire country is calling and waiting on just 5 more Senate Democrats to come to their senses and do the right thing. We are pleading with them to do so. This is not a game. The solution is sitting right in front of them. Pass the clean CR, end this madness, and open the government. You'll hear next from our majority leader in the House, Representative Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Democrats continue to impose suffering on the American people, and by the way, that's their term, they've continued to talk about real suffering that they know they're causing. Again, they say to get leverage over what they still can't articulate. But as Democrats continue to impose this suffering, their attempts to mislead the American people are working overtime. The Speaker laid out a number of those statements that Democrats have made over and over again to try to mislead the American people. And it doesn't just end there. Over the weekend, Chuck Schumer tweeted out, quote, "Republicans have done everything in their power to raise your health care costs and kill SNAP for millions of hungry Americans." Now, Chuck Schumer knows good and well what he said there is not only misleading, it's patently false. I tried to give it Pinocchio awards, but I don't want to associate the character Pinocchio with Chuck Schumer in that statement. Let's start with the first half of what he said there. Raising health care costs. Who is the party that's done that? The health care law of the land, and not sure if Chuck Schumer's been updated on the law, but Obamacare is the law of the land in health care. And we can all go look at the votes going back the last 10 years. It's been partisan votes all the way through for Obamacare. They called it, as the Speaker said, they named it the Affordable Care Act. It's been anything but. Costs for families are up over 80% in their premiums because of Obamacare. And what have they tried to do over and over again? They've tried to mask the cost. They haven't tried to work with Republicans to fix it. They've tried to mask the cost. Hundreds of billions of dollars of bailouts to insurance companies. not helping families get better options. Democrats have never cared about that. And in fact, when we, as we pointed out multiple times, passed provisions in the working families tax cuts, the cost sharing reductions, that were scored by CBO to lower premiums by double digits for families. It passed the House, and it was Democrats who worked overtime to get that removed in the Senate. They are still bragging about it today on the Democrat Budget Committee's website, that they removed a provision that would have lowered premiums for families. So who is it that's raising costs for families? Of course, it's been Democrats every step of the way, and the only thing scored by CBO to reduce premiums on families that have passed either house, the Democrats worked overtime to get that removed. The other half of that, he talks about SNAP. And of course, we know there have been votes in the House and Senate to save the SNAP program from cuts, from being zeroed out. It's called the Clean CR. Passed the House with Republican-only votes, primarily, with Democrats uniting to try to kill it, but luckily we have the majority in the House, and you go over to the Senate, and we know they have a 60-vote requirement, and Democrats have over and over and over again voted in lockstep with Chuck Schumer to block SNAP benefits. There is a vote you can go look at every day that they've taken that vote that would have opened the government, fully funded SNAP, or shut it down. And it's Republicans who are voting yes, and it's Democrats who are voting no. And Chuck Schumer's been leading that charge. And then he votes no to kill the SNAP program, to create tremendous uncertainty, to create millions of hungry Americans, to use his own word. Chuck Schumer has voted to put those millions of hungry Americans in that situation, and then he walks out to the microphone, as the speaker said, and then he tries to blame it on somebody else. People are sick and tired of it. We're surely sick and tired of it, but the American people are suffering, to use the Democrats' term, while those same Democrats that impose the suffering are going out and trying to mislead and lie to the American people and blame somebody else for the very votes they cast. It is votes in Congress that have caused a government shutdown. That's why we're here. You either vote yes to open the government or you vote no to keep it shut down. And the votes are public record. And the same people that are voting to shut down the government, to deny food to families, are then walking out and trying to lie to the American people and blame somebody else for their actions. The American people won't have it. The American people will not be lied to. And it's time that Chuck Schumer and his Democrat colleagues end this madness. Let's open the government back up again and get to a negotiation on the differences we have. Our whip, Tom Emmer.
Today marks day 34 of the Democrat shutdown. Here are some headlines from over the weekend highlighting the pain the Democrats are inflicting on the American people each day that they prolong this mess. Quote, government workers, SNAP recipients feel the pain as the government shutdown drags on. Quote, staffing shortages mire air travel as shutdown stretches on. Quote, government shutdown threatens to delay home heating aid for millions of low-income families. And that's just to name a few. Democrats have now voted against opening the government 14 times. That's 14 times that they voted against our military. That's 14 times that they have voted against federal law enforcement officers, air traffic controllers, and TSA agents. 14 times they have voted against low-income Americans who rely on programs like SNAP and WIC. Why? Not because they actually care about lowering the cost of health care like they claim. Just look at the 68-page counterproposal they filed in the Senate. Only 1.5 pages reference health care. The other 66 outline their radical policy priorities like billions of dollars for foreign climate projects or $500 million to prop up leftist media outlets. The fact of the matter is that the Democratic Party is not fighting for you, the American public. They've shut the government down to pick a fight with President Trump and to score points with Kami Mandami and Omar Fada, the Omar Fada wing of their party. The Democrats have become kamikaze politicians who are so focused on winning some kind of political game that they've justified blowing up everything in their wake, including the livelihoods of their own constituents. Democrat Senator John Fetterman said it best on CNN yesterday, quote, "We are hurting the very people that we fight for, and now we're getting nothing for them if we continue to keep our government shut down." Quote, "This is wrong," he went on to say, and he's exactly right. It's past time for Democrats to end the political games, pass our clean CR, and reopen the government for the people they were elected to serve. Back to the Speaker.
Questions? Manu, you get it first every time. This is not fair.
Last week, you came here to these mics, and you were very critical of Joe Biden's use of the auto pen, his pardons. You said you didn't even know who he was pardoning. But last night on 60 Minutes, President Trump, admitted not knowing he pardoned a crypto billionaire who pleaded guilty to money laundering. Does that also concern you?
I don't know anything about that. I didn't see the interview. You have to ask the president about that. I'm not sure. Yes, ma'am.
Last week on Friday, you said that if there was any way to fund SNAP, that the Trump administration would be happy to do it. Now, two judges have come out saying that it is likely illegal to stop SNAP payments. One is giving the Trump administration until today to make a decision on how to move forward. What have you told President Trump about how you want him to move forward?
Well, he and I talked about this quite a bit over the weekend, multiple times. The president is desperate for SNAP benefits to flow to the American citizens who desperately rely upon it. He has bent over backwards, as you know, to get the troops paid, to keep WIC funding going. He's found creative solutions. The SNAP situation, as Secretary Rollins and I explained at the press conference on Friday, has legal impediments to that. It was understood, and we got legal advice, and it made sense to me that the contingency fund and SNAP could not be used unless the underlying funds were flowing. As Secretary Rollins relayed to you, this is pretty commonsensical. The contingency fund is an extra, in layman's terms, it's an extra fund that is there, for example, if you have an unexpected natural occurrence like a hurricane or something, and SNAP benefits are flowing, but you have a subset of the population that needs additional benefits, then the contingency fund would go. The way we always understood it was the contingency fund could not be used legally if the underlying fund was suspended. And that's what's happened in the CR. The Democrats voted to stop SNAP payments. So you have two courts, two liberal courts, Obama judges, as I understand it, who said, no, that's not right, get them paid. Well, it's more complicated than that. Because as you know, it cost over $9 billion to fund SNAP for a month, and we only have, I think it's $5.2 billion in the contingency fund. So you have a big shortfall. So it's not as easy as hitting go send on a computer. You got to go through and recalculate partial payments to the 42 million recipients of the program. That puts a huge burden on states and on the feds to try to figure that out in short order. So what the president said logically was, okay, Your Honor, if you're saying we can do it, I'll go for that, because I want SNAP to go to the people. It's the Democrats that stopped it, not us. So tell me how to do it. Because I have all my personnel here in the office, the legal minds and the number crunchers, and they're trying to figure out how this can be done. Give us some guidance. We're glad to do it. So that's where we are at this impasse right now. As you noted, the president's not appealing the decision. He wants SNAP to be done, but he doesn't see the mechanism to do it. So you have Treasury, you have USDA, you have the other agencies involved that are working overtime, literally around the clock over the weekend, trying to figure out how to do this. But everybody needs to know it's not the full amount, assuming they could get this done and processed. The court acknowledged, thanks to the president, for saying that they wanted to do it. Everybody's on the same page here. We just don't know how. It's unprecedented. This has never happened before in this way. And so we're hopeful. But I would just say this, looping us back to how we began, the easiest way to get full SNAP payments to everybody who's eligible is for the Democrats to come in here and vote to reopen the government on a clean, nonpartisan CR. It's a game that's being played and real people are being hurt, and the administration gets all sorts of accolades and appreciation from us for bending over backwards trying to make sure people are not feeling the pain and that the harm is mitigated as much as possible. Yes, sir.
Do you agree with President Trump that now is the time to get rid of the Senate filibuster? He's saying it's gone on too long. Let's use a nuclear option.
So I talked talked to the president multiple times over the weekend, I mentioned, and of course the filibuster came up. This is a Senate matter. It has nothing to do with the House. Everybody wants to know what my opinion is. I mean, my opinion is irrelevant. I understand desperate times call for desperate measures. I also understand that traditionally we've seen that as an important safeguard. I mean, I've obviously shared my thoughts with the president on that. As much as I have wanted to blow up the filibuster sometime as a House member when we were not getting what we wanted done in our agenda, I hear my Senate Republican colleagues, some of the most conservative people in Congress, who say it's an important safeguard. It prevents us. It holds us back from the Democrats' worst impulses. What would the Democrats do if they had no filibuster impediment, no speed bump at all? They've already told us. They would pack the Supreme Court. You'd go from 9 to 13 or 15 or 17 or however many liberals they can pack on the court. You would have D.C. and Puerto Rico be made into states, which would give 4 additional Democrat senators there in the count and make us a permanent minority. I guess that would be their calculation. You would see massive restriction of the Second Amendment rights. You'd see them federalize elections so they could take over and manipulate things in the red states. I mean, there's a lot of abuses that could come. And so that's the caveat. That's what they're working through. And I speak frankly and honestly with the president, and he's very passionate about this. We're all very passionate. I think what you see in this debate we're having on our own side is a reflection of the anger that we feel, the real desperation that we feel, because we want the government to be reopened. We want to serve the American people as best we can. And any hindrance to that is something that everybody's looking at very carefully. Again, not a House issue. It's a Senate issue, and we'll see how that's resolved. Chad. We're very mindful of the calendar. We're very frustrated by that. It's part of the reason we're so angry about this, because they're eating up the clock, and the Democrats know how much more we have to do here this year. But we cannot do it if the government's not opened and not serving the people. And so this is a very important matter. It's something that we're giving all of our attention to. Our leaders will go and meet on the calendar right now. We watch it every day. But the simplest way to get all these issues resolved, health care, everything else, to get it all finished up for the year, is for them to reopen the government and make sure people are not hurting instead of Democrats over here playing political games to cover their own backside. I hope the election tomorrow is a change, a sea change in all this. I hope that after everybody votes and they go in their room and they make the calculation that, well, maybe we won't have to hold that line anymore. Maybe they won't punish us. Maybe it won't affect turnout in our states in these elections. Maybe after tomorrow they'll come to their common senses again and do the right thing. We certainly pray that is true, and Republicans will be on the job every single day, serving our constituents, helping guide them through the chaos that the Democrat shutdown has created, and praying that they do the right thing and stop making the American people suffer because of this nonsense. Thank you.
Thank you to House Speaker Mike Johnson. Republican leadership as well giving an update. Day 34, will we tie the 35-day shutdown of 2018 and 2019? We'll see you tomorrow on Election Day across America, perhaps your neck of the woods. As with mine, Sandy Springs, Georgia, to a Public Service Commission statewide election, and the Garden State of New Jersey, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and of course right there, New York City, the Big Apple. Will it fall into the hands of communists, just as Chicago, Illinois, and Los Angeles, California have over the course of the last few years? We cover the latest from the Trump White House. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Thank you to a great company. No red tape, no bureaucracy. Simply a pharmaceutical note if you need these life-saving, right-to-try generics and other affordable pharmaceuticals. Now 25% off ivermectin and mebendazole at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code there now. We know this time of year is just absolutely gorgeous, and fall football, especially in November as we approach that gracious Turkey Day, an all-American holiday coming up. Make sure you don't get that cold, the flu, and even a strain of COVID out there. Ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, methylene blue, over 200 essential medications, emergency medical kits that can literally save your life, because during this time of year, lots of long lines at urgent care to pharmacies and also doctors' offices. So prevent all that. The apple a day keeps a doctor away, as does affordable generics at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Get that extra 10% off with code RSBN10. Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN. My prediction of the Los Angeles Dodgers, congratulations, back-to-back World Series champions. I hope you had a chance to trade or bet on that. The first time in a quarter century in Major League Baseball. The New York City mayoral election tomorrow. Wow, it looks as if you are choosing Zoran Mamdani not out of wanting a communist Democrat, but simply based on what you think will happen tomorrow. Will the Democrat turned independent former governor of the Empire State pull the upset and have a political comeback not near what Donald Trump did, but similar and close in all the lawfare that went after the Cuomo family? Will Bitcoin hit 150,000 before March of next year? All of those questions on music, sports, culture, and more right here in the American Experiment with Kalshi.com/RSBN. And thank you to AngelPaste.com. This is a great miracle cream. I use it every day, and I've used it right here on the network to keep my skin glowing, especially as the cold temperatures with the dry air coming in this time of year. Also, the orange option, vitamin C infused, just phenomenal. And so many different options there at angelpaste.com, including a natural facial spray for the guys and the gals. So whether it's that first date or that 50th wedding anniversary, don't get gaslit like the Democrats are doing to the Republicans. So have that facial spray on hand. Christian owned. They hire veterans right out of Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. It's angelpaste.com. Experience the miracle today. Thank you for your sponsorship here on the right side of history as we break down the latest within the federal city and with the Trump White House. We had that press gaggle earlier, and President Trump's exclusive interview last night highlighting a different number of topics, including this trade deals to the recent victories. We've seen so much of that happening here in 2025 in a new golden era, and tariffs making a difference on the global scale. Let's take a quick commercial break for sponsorships here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Stick with us as we cover the latest inside and outside of the Beltway.
Every day, you eat, drink, and breathe plastic. Not bottles or bags, the kind you can see, but microscopic fragments called microplastics. They're invisible, they're everywhere, and they're inside you right now. Scientists have found them in bottled water, table salt, food, vegetables, and even clouds. They've been detected in human blood, lungs, and brain tissue. One study estimated the average person consumes the equivalent of a credit card's worth of plastic every single week. And it's not slowing down. Plastic production is expected to triple by 2060, meaning the air you breathe, the rain that falls, and the food that sustains you will only become more contaminated. Once microplastics enter your body, they don't pass through harmlessly. They scrape and tear at your intestinal lining, triggering constant inflammation and disrupt your microbiome, the command center of your immune system and metabolism. They carry toxic additives and heavy metals that leach into your bloodstream, disturbing your hormones, damaging DNA, and accelerating aging from the inside out. Doctors are finding links between microplastic exposure and infertility, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and early cognitive decline. And here's the worst part. Your body can't break them down. They build up year after year, like invisible shrapnel lodged inside your organs. But recently, researchers studying traditional Korean kimchi discovered something incredible. A probiotic strain called Bacillus pumilus, found only in kimchi, can actually degrade BPA plastics. In the lab, these bacteria were shown to break down BPA into harmless components, literally digesting one of the most persistent plastic toxins known to science. And the source? Not a pharmaceutical factory, not a billion-dollar biotech lab. It came from kimchi, a food that's been part of human diets for over 2,000 years. Kimchi is one of the world's most powerful superfoods, and let's be honest, it's messy, strong-smelling, and not exactly easy to eat every single day. That's why Brightcore created Kimchi One, to give you all the benefits of premium fermented kimchi in convenient capsule form. No mess, no taste, no hassle. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains, live enzymes, and antioxidants that help restore balance in your gut and health to the rest of your body. People are seeing improvements in digestion, energy, even cardiovascular and brain health. Studies show that kimchi can even reduce the risk of obesity, promote smaller waistlines, and lower BMI. Kimchi One is all natural, non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free, and 100% made in the USA, so just about anyone can take it. We're living in a toxic world. You must do something
Use code RSBN for 25% off your order of Brightcore's Kimchi One. Made in the USA, it is their premier product. Call today. Do not delay. 888-722-0936. Hey, it's even more. Receive 50% off if you call that number. So, an added incentive. And it's free shipping. So remember, you only get the 50% off when calling 888-722-0936. If you can't do that, just go online. 25% with code RSBN. Either way, great deals to get this premier product. Kimchi One by Brightcore, made in the USA. It's all about that gut health. So important as we cover the latest from the Trump White House and President Trump's successful interview last night, highlighting a number of different quotes directly from the White House on or in regards to the next 3 years. We have been acknowledged as having the greatest 9 months in the history of the White House, the presidency, in fact, according to President Trump. So if you keep that going, I'll be very happy. Also on the Supreme Court tariffs case, which he did send out a Truth Social about. Because of tariffs, we have the highest stock market we've ever had. Because of tariffs, 401ks are at the highest level. And this is millions of people that we have ever had. I think it's the most important subject discussed by the Supreme Court in 100 years. We'll be watching that very closely as we expect a ruling on that case. Now, on retribution and the idea of it, you've heard a lot of that from the mainstream media of, oh, aren't you just doing this because you're going after political enemies? President Trump stating it's the opposite. I think it's been very mild-mannered. You're looking at a man who has been indicted many times, and even many, I think, your humble correspondent's personal opinion, it's this man is really very calm as a result of, 94 felony convictions at one point, or indictments, excuse me. And then that turns into what was lawfare seen from New York to Georgia and just about everywhere in between on DAs and AGs and even judges in some cases that ran on quote unquote get Trump. And he has been vindicated as a result of Arctic frost and the Russia hoax. We saw so much of that throughout the last decade, as we're joined now by Tim Ballard. He is a filmmaker you might recognize from The Sound of Freedom and also his amazing work of saving countless children. Tim, thank you for joining us here on The Right Side of History. Can you tell us about your new documentary film that is truly the hidden war on children being trafficked across the world?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, people saw Sound of Freedom, which is, based on a true story with actors. Hidden Wars, the next installment, it runs like a movie. It's being billed as a feature film, but it is a docu-film. It's real. It's all real footage. We went into Ukraine when the war began to rescue children, and we found a trafficking network that was spread across the world, born in Western Europe, and ultimately trying to recruit kids out of Ukraine to put them in their sex markets in Latin America. So the film covers the span of the earth. We run through 6 countries, 3 continents, and take down an entire trafficking ring in about 4 months. So it's pretty exciting docu-film.
Can it be something that is very similar to The Sound of Freedom, where you'll be on the front of your seat kind of really looking at this saying it's hard to believe just the evils and the atrocities that happen worldwide?
I'd say even more so than Sound of Freedom, you'll be on the edge of your seat because it's real. You just mentioned the lawfare from Trump. That's my story for the last 2 years. That's coming out, and that's going to be Sound of Freedom too. Because I say this to tell you, this is the film they didn't want you to see. I got accused of being, after Sound of Freedom was such a light exposing darkness, we got destroyed, hit by everybody, people inside my church, deep state around the world, and they thought they were going to win, but we won. Many of them are going to jail now. That's going to be a whole nother story, like I said. But all this to say, this is the film they didn't want you to see, because they no longer have the excuse like they did with Sound of Freedom, saying, oh, it's fiction, it's Jim Caviezel, it's actors. Well, fine, we'll show you something completely real that you no longer have an excuse to. You have to confront this. And this is going to be the declaration of war against traffickers and those that cover for traffickers inside church and state.
Yes, and explain that for us as well, because we've seen with NGOs or certain denominations, we saw what happened in some elements of the Mormon church, as you mentioned, just this almost fake news story or an attempt to discredit you and the great work you've done for now years and years to save countless lives. Yeah,
they championed me when it was, for their good. And I don't call out the church in general. This is a deep state within, and they know I got them. They colluded with a George Soros-owned tabloid magazine that's anti-Jesus and pro-pedophile called Vice News, and they gave them this lie. This guy named Doug Anderson, the PR lead, and others. I know who they are, and they know I know who they are. Just completely lied to them about all sorts of things, defamed one of their own apostles in the process. And said I never did projects with the church. I published books with the church, $4 million worth. I did projects with everybody from the top to the bottom, and they thought they'd get away with it because they thought that they were working in collusion with lawfare warriors, and they thought it would take me out and I would die with the lie. But I survived, and now they have a lot of answering to do. We had a bill called the Sound of Freedom Act in August 2023, which was with Trump. Trump asked me to run for senator of Utah. I announced on the Sean Spicer show that I was going to do that. And 3 weeks later, this guy, Doug Anderson, within the church PR department, defames me. You know what happens when a nonprofit, 501c3, meddles in a federal election, one that Trump had asked me to run for Senate, right? Kevin McCarthy had asked me to promote the Sound of Freedom Act, which was going to expose the traffickers on the border. It was going to expose the satanic ritual abuse attached to clearly being hidden by elements of the LDS Church. Okay, they certainly didn't want that exposed. When I went to them, when I thought we were all good, I told them about it, and they said, "Don't go down that rabbit hole." So they got a lot of things to answer for. Most significantly, the fact that what they did looks like conspiracy against the U.S. Congress by one, meddling in a federal election, and two, allegedly conspiring against the Sound of Freedom Act, which is conspiring against U.S. Congress and the children of this world. The Sound of Freedom Act is being resurrected. There's new sponsors. It's going to kind of come out along with Hidden War. And the Congress is asking reasonable questions. What happened to the first attempt? Oh, well, this guy named Doug Anderson stepped in, shot the first, shot across the bow. Well, what's he hiding? Well, no, you might want to ask him that. And I can't say more than that at this point. But people need to see Hidden War because it's the movie they didn't want you to see. That's the point. It's the movie they didn't want you to see. So show them up, take it to them by coming and watching the movie, educating yourselves, and joining our movement to rescue more kids and expose all these weasels throughout the world, really, not just one church, many churches, many institutions, and governments. They're covering up the fastest growing criminal enterprise on the planet, which is the sexual abuse and trafficking of children.
It's an unthinkable act. And Tim, that's what I'm so impressed by you, because you're a former Department of Homeland Security agent. And it was 2 weeks prior to that mission that surrounds the Sound of Freedom, where you talk with your wife, and it's detailed by Jim Caviezel in the film. And you forego that pension because the federal government at this time said shut it down, and you ended up saving a brother and a sister. But it's just one personal story in what could be thousands of stories across the entire world.
And those stories, we're going to be telling all of them. I just got out of Syria, believe it or not. I was in Syria just a few weeks ago. We went in, infiltrated Shweda. That's the Christian Druze town that was being beat up. We snuck in through ISIS, got the criminal evidence we needed, delivered it to the U.S. government, working with Ambassador Huckabee very closely and the administration. They got the evidence they needed to prove the war crimes. And then a week later, Trump came out just last week and announced they're going to be sending aid into Shweda. He just announced they're going to go in to help these Christians in Nigeria. I'm so grateful to President Trump for doing what he's doing right now. He's taking it to ISIS. He's liberating the captive.
It's wonderful to see. And can you break it down for us, Tim? What are these networks and these evildoers? Is it a mix of the Islamism we see? Is it a mix of different ideology or thought, or do you just simply people, gangs and networks who are harming children for a profit?
Well, look, I see things very much through spiritual eyes. It's all of the above, but I see things through spiritual eyes. Okay, and bottom line is the devil's real. Okay, and the devil has wanted to sit in God's throne forever. He can't do that, so he punches the thing closest he can to God, which is those made in His image. The strongest demographic of those are children. So there's been a war on children for a long, long time, and it manifests through political Islam, through the left. This bizarre collusion between the leftists and political Islam, right? But really, you can go into any ideology, you know, whatever the uniform is, from Nazism to Stalinism to Maoism, they all abuse children. Political Islam, forefront in that. They abuse children, okay? They use their own ancient text scriptures to justify it. The Prophet Muhammad did marry a 6-year-old and consummated at 9. Her name's Aisha. It's all in their text. They believe it. And so they're justified in their minds to do it. And they're bringing it to Europe. They've taken Africa. They've taken the Middle East. They're bringing it to Europe, almost got UK, you know, they got Austria. And they're trying to take it to America now. They're bringing it here. Our children are, if we don't clear this thing up and stop this, we are going to become the next Lebanon. We're going to become the next UK. You know, and it's a combination of all the isms. Again, if you see it spiritually, it's Marxism connected with political Islam, with leftism, with wokeism, with what I call lukewarmism. Those are the people that use Jesus' name to participate in conspiracy. And so it's a mass battle. General Michael Flynn's a good friend of mine. He got hit by the same wave at the same time. He's exposing this like mad. And so we're working close together, him and I. And we're in World War III, honestly. We're there. We just can't see it because it's so sneaky this time. But it could turn kinetic real quick.
Oh, you're hitting it right on the head, that unholy triumvirate of communism, Islamism, and that secular humanist thought, the globalism, and with all the isms combined. And sadly, we see some of that ideology that might dominate New York City tomorrow on Election Day. Now, Tim, can you break down for us, is at one point trafficking, human trafficking, whether in labor or sex trafficking, especially with an open border with children, America was the biggest consumer of it, which is just, it makes my blood boil. Is that still the case? And how can the average American make a difference in their community, especially the men of America, to stand up and say enough of this and protect our children?
It is unfortunately the case for decades, you know, forever, really. We've been the largest consumers of child rape videos, okay? Child sex tourists. As an agent, I was assigned to track down Americans who were overseas engaging in sex with children. But all that even amplified between 2020 and 2024 when Biden and Kamala became truly the biggest traffickers in the world history, truly. And maybe they won't get their dues until they cross over to the other side. But they knew damn well what they were doing by opening that border. Okay, for political gain, hoping that these immigrants would vote Democrat as Kamala's hopping around from state to state, right, trying to change no voter ID laws. They did that at a consequence of traffickers being able to bring in what we believe is over 400,000 children into this most dangerous sex market. They're still here, by the way. We're working with the administration right now, General Flynn's part of that, to come up with a plan to recover them. I mean, and so since that time, whatever the demand was in the U.S., it's now through the roof because the Americans, pedophiles, no longer had to travel to get the kids. The kids were delivered to their doors by the child trafficking delivery service we can call Biden's HHS. That's how gross this is. I think it's one of the worst things, maybe the worst thing since the transatlantic slave trade in the 18th, 19th century. It's that bad, and the world just hasn't seen it yet. The Sound of Freedom Act of 2023 was supposed to expose that, okay, until Doug Anderson and his cabal in this element inside my own church attacked it, and Congress knows that. Okay, so they've got the blood of children on their hands like you can't believe, and they use the name of Jesus to do it. So eternally, this is grave, very grave.
And to your point, Tim, I saw it when I was up in Anchorage, Alaska, covering the local news. And then I had the privilege of working for the former mayor up there who took on trafficking directly because it was South American children, even some America Samoans. So it was American citizens and international citizens coming into Anchorage legally, but through a major port. And the FBI was on the ground, DHS, to make sure it did not happen. And we were very aware of those who would pretend to be passengers to watch for this behavior and try to save kids coming in, because he said it wasn't the slums or Anchorage or the bad part of town per se. It was those $1 million plus mansions up in the hills. And you could hear a pin drop at his state of the municipality way back in 2021.
I can tell you that per capita, Alaska is the worst in the United States. Has been it's because it's so easy.
Right.
There's lots of land. It's easy to move people. The child sex abuse material, the child rape videos, huge up there. It's insane. Yeah, Alaska needs some help, and there's great people up there who are including the Attorney General, who know it, and they're doing all they can.
No question about it. And we know the wolves are in sheep's clothing, sometimes the NGOs and sometimes, sadly, within the churches. How, again, can the average American citizen help to get this message out that, I mean, you are opening so many eyes to what's happening, not only domestically, but internationally. But again, like because it's in everyone's community. It could be the person, it could be your neighbor down the street involved in this network. That's what's so disturbing about it.
Well, yeah, when your church leaders are the ones covering up the most severe sex abuse, we got a problem in the world, in the country. But I would tell everybody the first thing to do is get educated, get converted to it. Go to see Hidden War, November 14th. It'll be in theaters in the United States and then later throughout the world. Go watch it. Be inspired as to what you can do. We have a foundation called the Tim Ballard Foundation, tbfrescue.org, where you can learn more at that point what it is you want to do, what you can do. And at that point, we'll start recruiting people. But everyone should go to the theaters. Hidden War is such an experience because it's not like Sound of Freedom where it just takes place in one country. It takes place in every corner of the world. We're in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, US, Mexico, Latin America. So everybody can see how it works in their region and how the bad guys use borders and boundaries to create the smoke screen so we can't see what it is they're actually doing to our children, just like the 400,000 that Biden used and Kamala used, the border, to hide them, to hide their crimes. And those kids are still being terrorized and demolished in our country right now. It's happening still right now. We haven't got them back yet. We have some of them back thanks to Trump, but we haven't got them all back. So that's going to be a mass exposure too. And we'll find out who is covering up for those kids. It's vast. The net's going to be vast, and the bad guys it's going to be shocking when you find out who the bad guys are.
And I'm looking forward to all of it, where the breadcrumbs lead to expose this evil. Light always exposes the darkness. And regardless of Republican, Democrat, Independent voters out there, I think it's something we can all unify as Americans. We know where the national parties stand on either a sealed border, a closed border, or an open one. So that's why it's important to vote, because of this very trafficking issue. Tim Ballard, thank you so much. We're praying for you. We're praying for your team, the former DHS agent who inspired the Sound of Freedom, returning with his new film Hidden War, premiering November 14th in U.S. theaters. Go and see it. Tim, please come back and see us at Right Side Broadcasting Network again very soon.
Would love to. Thanks so much.
As we cover the latest from the Trump White House inside and outside of the Beltway, it's tough topics like that are truly hard to cover, but that's why this new media is in place, because legacy media might not address the satanic practices and the evil that are out there of exposing what is god-awful to think about human trafficking, whether in the labor form or sex trafficking, especially of minors. God be with Tim Ballard. Thank you for joining us again as we are focused on day 34 of government shutdown. Sadly, the Senator Chuck Schumer shut down the New York shutdown, with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries adding to that, leading up to tomorrow. Where will the Commonwealth of Virginia fall? Where will the Garden State decide to go? And the Big Apple, New York City, amongst other races that might be in your neck of the woods. As we approach 5 minutes to 11 Eastern, still a very good morning to all of you across America and wherever you're watching throughout the world. If you have any feedback, feel free to opine at feedback@rsbn.tv. As we cover the latest in America, stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're going to take a quick commercial break for sponsors. We'll be right back with you.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely. It's a glorious day there, somewhat of a post-Halloween colors at the White House. It wasn't that fun to see all the kids out there celebrating with President Trump and the staff right after an extraordinarily successful Asian tour of the Indo-Pacific at APEC to the ASEAN Conference and meeting with Malaysian officials to the Vietnam trade deals, Cambodia and Thailand coming to peace, the two kingdoms, and then on to South Korea with more deals, and the Empire of Japan with military build-up and protection against the Chinese Communist threat, and ultimately a couple of hours with Chinese counterparts, which will lead to an April 2026 summit between the United States and China. And if you look at the body language of President Trump and President Xi, it was clear the cool, calm, and collected individual, although it's hard to read Mr. Xi, President Trump was having a rather calm time, saying this is my good friend and we are ready to dialogue on lots of things, and paying compliments to all the other countries of the great negotiators that they do have. But we saw that the Japanese Prime Minister and her team really in office for about 10 days to date, since October 21st, watching those Los Angeles Dodgers with many great Japanese players on that roster as we celebrate their victory from just the other night. Now, President Trump having a very big interview last night on nuclear weapons testing. He stated we have more nuclear weapons than any other country. I think we should do something about denuclearization. We're the only country that doesn't test, and I don't want to be the only country that does not test. So when meeting with China, and part of the ask from the South Korean government was the nuclear-powered subs, not for the missiles, but because of their technological prowess and being able to scan vast areas and patrol the Indo-Pacific and countless leagues of the sea. So it's very important to do all that. And as meeting with the Chinese counterparts, President Trump said immediately the testing will begin. It was very similar to when President Xi was at Mar-a-Lago in April of 2017, and President Trump told him over turtle cheesecake, I've dropped the mother of all bombs on ISIS, which ended the global Islamic caliphate, at least for a period of time, until the Autopen came back into office. Thank you to covepure.com/RSBN, the machine that sits right on your countertop, just like your coffee maker. The same size or perhaps even smaller. $200 off now of covepure.com/RSBN. This is not a luxury to have a reverse osmosis system, but really a necessity. Because if you're drinking from the tap water, it's a crisis. And pending where you live, remember Flint, Michigan, and the lead pipes and the terrible infrastructure, all provided by Democrat leadership or lack thereof, leads to lead poisoning, liver failure, stomach lining issues, to even brain cancer. It's something not to mess with. JAMA Pediatrics actually doing a study of young people, students who drink out of the tap on a regular basis. They lose up to 2 points or more in their IQ. Simply unacceptable in America. Drink pure, live pure, protect yourself from pesticides, fluoride, agricultural runoff, hormone disrupting blockers like birth control. You may ask how that works. Well, water treatment centers do not get 100% of the impurities out of the water, but this Clearwave technology does just that at 99%. So drink pure, live pure, get $200 off right now. This is so important that countless governors have met with Secretary Kennedy in the MAHA movement, and Utah and Florida, two of the latest state legislatures to put forward legislation to get the poisons out of your drinking water. Thank you for sponsoring us here on the right side of history, covepier.com/RSBN. Thank you to Tax Network USA. Whether it's those back taxes from April 15th, October 15th, or somewhere in between, settle them today with the experts at Tax Network USA. It's tnusa.com/RSBN. Call today. Do not delay. It's 800-357-1415. Protect yourself from the IRS. Settle the back taxes now. And with that, many of these experts actually have worked at the IRS or are expert accountants on these very issues. So go to the experts and the patriots who will solve all of this for you so you get that stress off your back. tnusa.com/RSBN, 800-357-1415. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we cover the latest from the Trump White House. Crypto.com today joins a very historic movement with the Trump Media Group, the people responsible for Truth Social, with a CRO strategy that's changing the ballgame. In fact, a $6.4 billion deal being made with Crypto.com, the Trump Media Organization, and an acquisition that is truly historic, as diversifying your income and your investment strategies have now become very clear with Crypto.com. It's something that's needed, just as gold, silver, and simply your job might be able to find a way to change all that up so you can retire and live abundantly. Crypto.com doing just that with, again, the Trump Media Group, a historic acquisition of $6.4 billion. This will be something to watch not only in the coming years, but even weeks and months from now. So join Crypto.com and this historic movement with the Trump Media Group to bring financial freedom and liberty to you at home in this bull market that's very exciting at 11:04 Eastern. Thank you to all the good viewers here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Please like, share, and subscribe as well for All America First access at rsbnetwork.com. It is a great thing to do in order to keep track of what the legacy media outlets might not be talking about, the very issues that you care about at home, the very issues that President Trump is tackling, along with Vice President J.D. Vance and the 119th Congress, if they will reopen. We are on the cusp of tying that 2018-2019 shutdown that was at 35 days to continue running through what President Trump was talking about just last night in the prime time on the ceasefire in Gaza. It's very solid, according to the president. You hear about Hamas, but Hamas could be taken out immediately if they don't behave. They know that. If they don't behave, they're going to be taken out immediately. On crime in Democrat-run cities, if you had to send in the Army or send in the Marines, I'd do that in a heartbeat. But I haven't chosen to do it because I haven't felt we need it. Now on China, it's like everybody else. We're a threat to them too. This is a very competitive world, especially when it comes to China and the United States. We are always watching them. They're always watching us. In the meantime, I think we will get along very well, and I think we can be bigger and better and stronger by working with them as opposed to just knocking them out. And Venezuela, which has seen narco trafficking and a large buildup in South America, but also in the Caribbean. They've been treating us very badly, not only on drugs. They've dumped hundreds of thousands of people into our country that we did not want. People from prisons, they emptied their prisons into our country. They emptied their mental institutions and their insane asylums into the United States of America. And we saw Maduro try to break a deal, really an illegitimate government, whether you see it from the inside or the outside, and their opposition leader winning that Nobel Peace Prize, tributing it to President Donald Trump and saying this is for him for solving 8 wars in 8 months and 9 on the cusp with Russia and Ukraine. But the president of the United States, along with the assistance of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, stating clearly that no trade deals with Venezuela as long as these narco criminals have their way with things. And we've seen from declassified information that many of them have been brought to justice. So we'll watch all of that very closely as we cover the latest from the Trump White House. And President Trump with a slew of endorsements over the course of this weekend, with congressmen to governors, including Sarah Huckabee Sanders. But number one, Mr. Producer, Congressman Jim Jordan is an America First patriot who is doing an incredible job representing Ohio's 4th Congressional District. As chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim is fighting tirelessly to protect our country against the Marxists, the socialists, and communists on the radical left. A true MAGA warrior, Jim is also relentlessly focused on helping us grow our economy, cut taxes and regulation, promote Made in the USA, champion American energy dominance, keep our very secure border secure, stop the migrant crime, and defend our always under siege, the Second Amendment. So a great laundry list of a resume of a true fighter, a historic wrestler as well in his UW-Madison days. Jim Jordan is a very good friend, fighter, and winner, and has my complete and total endorsement for re-election. He will never let you down. And I can remember that CPAC from 2021 down in Florida. It felt free, more free than anything else, especially being in the Chicago area at the time. And Jim Jordan introducing the then former president, Donald Trump, number 45, not 47 yet, endorsing him for re-election back in February and March of 2021. He was the first one really out the gate. So this is something that is extraordinarily great to see. Along with cut number 4, Mr. Director, well, we have Congressman Dan Muser as well, but Congressman Ronnie Jackson, America First Patriot. He was the doctor to George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and President Trump, doing a fantastic job representing Texas's 13th Congressional District. A distinguished medical doctor, a U.S. Navy veteran, Doc, as they call him, Ronnie, knows the wisdom and courage that is necessary to defend our country, support our brave military and veterans, and ensure peace through strength. In Congress, he is fighting tirelessly to grow our economy, cut taxes and regulations, promote Made in the USA, and champion American energy dominance. Keep our now very secure border secure, advance election integrity, and protect our always under siege Second Amendment. So, Doc will never let you down. President Trump stating it out there, including number 6, our congressman right here in the 3rd District of Alabama, Mike Rogers. Truly a fantastic job representing the great people of Alabama's 3rd Congressional District. As the first chairman of the House and Armed Services Committee from Alabama, Mike is working tirelessly to advance the America First agenda and knows the wisdom and courage required to defend our country, support our incredible military and veterans, and ensure peace through strength, energy dominance, and, of course, as always, the under siege Second Amendment. So President Trump, for countless congressmen, also to governors across the country, doing a remarkable job as this united Republican front seeks to build on its majorities in 2026. Now, cut number 5, Mr. Producer, President Trump has taken something that the Democrats allegedly were once for, but I guess not anymore, terminating the filibuster, not just for the shutdown, but for everything else. We would get all of our common sense policies approved, voter ID, anyone, and make America great again. Remember, the Democrats will do it immediately as soon as they get the chance. So our doing it will not give them the chance. Republicans, be tough and smart. The Dems are crazed lunatics. They will not open our country no matter how many people are irreparably harmed. And we saw that last week at Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi. Vice President J.D. Vance taking questions at the Turning Point Tour, which will be here on Wednesday at Auburn University. Excited for that, with the great Benny Johnson, also Eric and Laura Trump doing extraordinary work in the Trump organization and through media and communications. And then also Senator Tommy Tuberville, coach. He is running for governor of Alabama. Should be a star-studded night. But we saw last week the vice president touch on this very issue, that Republicans can not be, they really should be unafraid in order to address countless different issues, regardless of what the left does. They've shown us what they're going to do. Because I'll talk to other Republican friends and they said, well, what about this? Because when they get back in, they might do this. Did you not live through Barack Hussein Obama? Did you not live through the auto pen? Democrats will dive, duck, dip, dodge, dive, and dodge, and however dodgeball says it. They will do just that, and they will remain united. It's the one thing I admire about the Democrat left, the electeds, not the voters necessarily, but the elected individuals. They stick together within caucus, and they listen to their overlords, people like Hakeem Jeffries and people like Senator Chuck Schumer. They are in lockstep, with the exception of John Fetterman, the senator from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, who's the one common sense Democrat seemingly in Washington, D.C. right now. Thank you to Monetary Gold for sponsoring us here on the right side of history. Grab that complimentary presidential gold guide today, 888-617-7994. Learn how you can get rid of those IRA fees that might be holding you back in obtaining gold and silver. It's smart to do in this day and age, as it's a bull market for both. The 777% truth, the media won't tell you. Well, what's that? Over the past 20 years, a quiet transformation has taken place in America. Hidden behind the noise of headlines and political spin, while most Americans get distracted, it's gold and silver that has rose 777% in value in nearly a quarter century. The last 2 decades, the U.S. dollar, meanwhile, lost more than 40% of its purchasing power. So it's not coincidence. It's mere economics and facts. With every consequence, every dollar printed, every bailout. Remember 2008 and the lunacy that was with Senators John McCain and Barack Obama next to then President George W. Bush. And the Republicans, Democrats clearly could not help solve those many issues, but would rather bail out the big guys than take care of Main Street. Gold did not rise because anything changed. It rose because the dollar declined in the process. Look around. Prices climb. Inflation. Because they can print. So it's important to have gold and silver in your diversification. RSBNforthegold.com. It's the place to go right now. Wealth, security, preservation at Monetary Gold. Also, thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. The 6-piece towel set back in stock, normally going for $70, a big 70, and less than 40 in stock right now. Very limited quantity. You want to call today. Do not delay, because it will come on back. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network by shopping now 2,000 products right there. mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us. Mike Lindell on the Right Side of History, a good friend of ours. If you like what you see, we were your go-to rally network for a decade. It's now turned into a live desk. And we like to have smiles, like to have fun. We cover tough topics, but it's all about the future of this great country. Support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. RSBNetwork.com/donate. You can text RSBN to 801-801 or send check or money order to a hard address at 1550. That's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. The loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for your support as we take on corporate globalist media. They have a lot of resources, and we are strong but mighty, small but mighty, strong, all that too, right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's a ragtag group of friends and colleagues who are simply focused on the correct side of history, the right side of history, and being unafraid of those crumbs that truly lead down rabbit holes to what's actually happening inside and outside the Beltway. That's why we don't edit things here. We go right to those speeches, those press conferences in the raw so that you can see what's happening based upon the government you put into place nearly 1 year ago, November 5th. And tomorrow, that will happen again in perhaps your neck of the woods, from the Big Apple of New York City to the Garden State next door in New Jersey and the Commonwealth of Virginia. So breaking that down real quick for a moment, what you're going to have with Jack Ciattarelli's group is you have 850,000 more registered Democrats in the Garden State than you do Republicans. But according to recent polling, which you cannot completely say that's the gospel of what's going to happen in a local election, where turnout is historically smaller than that of a presidential or even a midterm because of these off-year, oddly numbered years, 2025, direction that this might be going. Most, at least half of those planning to vote in the Garden State say that the president and the occupant of the White House does not have an effect necessarily on this specific race. That gives Jack Ciattarelli somewhat of an advantage here as he's going up against Mikey Sherrill. She's a congresswoman who has basically ran an entire campaign on not only Get Trump, but Trump derangement syndrome, as energy prices could be skyrocketing through the roof with some of her proposed plans. We've also seen a similar apparatus in the Commonwealth of Virginia, with Winsome Sears, lieutenant governor, up against the Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, and also former CIA operative, who has been very slow to condemn the comments of the attorney general candidate who called for the death and the killing of a state delegate, someone in the state House of Representatives in the Commonwealth, and their children. Something just terrible and disgusting, considering the violence we saw in Minnesota over the summer during Flag Day of state legislators and the former Speaker of the House and their spouses killed or harmed in that terrible attack by a clear maniac that took place. And, of course, that before the assassination of Charlie Kirk in September of this year. There's really should be no hesitation to calling for peace and no violence in regards to gathering to make your political point, period. Right, left, and center. I mean, that's an easy thing to denounce. So we'll see the very popular Republican attorney general could be easily reelected in Virginia with those radical comments from the left. And then also at Spanberger's rallies, it was seen throughout these signs, and you don't necessarily want to tie it to a campaign, but it was very hard for her to condemn these comments for some reason, where people came with signs that said, because of Winsome Sears' stance of having no men in women's sports and men out of women's locker rooms, which is really common sense. That's why Governor Glenn Youngkin was overwhelmingly elected in Virginia just 4 years ago against Terry McAuliffe, because he stuttered on this very issue. And in traditionally Democrat areas around Washington, D.C., those counties, generally left of center, a lot of government employees, swinging right for the first time in roughly 2 decades by the numbers that they did. And we're seeing a very repeat of that from 4 years ago, where signs went going to Abigail's rallies saying that if Winsome Sears does not want transgenders in these areas, why don't we have black people, but they used a much more derogatory term, at water fountains, hearkening back to the Dixiecrat South. In what world would you bring a sign like that to a political rally? And the Democrat gubernatorial candidate was very, very slow to condemning those awful comments, as Winsome Sears would be the first female elected in Virginia and also the first of Jamaican descent. She's had an extraordinary American story, a veteran, and will serve at a very high level and knows the office well, having served the last 4 years as lieutenant governor. So we'll watch all of those closely today and tomorrow as we cover the latest inside and outside of the White House. And President Trump is speaking about these races as well, taking to Truth Social about voting in New Jersey and Virginia with cut number 10, Mr. Producer. talking about how important these races are for a number of different issues. For all of those people voting in New Jersey and Virginia for governor, attorney general, or any other position, please remember the Republican vote means a drastic drop in energy prices and energy costs, and a drop like you've never seen before. Now, a Democrat vote means doubling or even tripling your energy bills and prices, traditionally the highest cost of any American citizen. So if you vote Republican, your energy costs are going to go down tremendously. And if you vote Democrat, they will go through the roof, making energy virtually unaffordable for you and your family members. Also, remember that if you don't go out to the polls and vote, it's the same thing as voting for a Democrat. So go to the polls and cut your energy costs in half. President Trump also, with cut 16, endorsing Jack Ciattarelli for governor of New Jersey. The Orthodox Jewish communities all across America voted in very large numbers. For me, in historic 2024 fashion with the presidential campaign, Lakewood, New Jersey was one of the biggest wins anywhere in the country with more than 90% of the vote. On November 4th, the eyes of the country are on New Jersey once again. I need all my supporters in the Orthodox community in Lakewood and its surrounding towns to vote in huge numbers for Jack Ciattarelli. Jack will be a great endorsement and will complete, or a great governor. He has my complete and total endorsement. He will never let you down, as President Trump likes to attach to those well thought out endorsement pieces. Jack needs every single vote in the community, including the yeshiva students who turned out to vote for me last year. Your votes in this election will save New Jersey, a state that is near and dear to my heart. Jack will cut your taxes and tremendously reduce your out-of-control and ridiculous energy costs, whereas his opponent will double, triple, and even quadruple your energy and other costs. You will rue the day that you voted for her. Vote Jack Ciattarelli on November 4th. So that will be tomorrow. And also with cut number 11, Mr. Producer, you may not know that in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, big races on judicial candidates on this November 3rd going into tomorrow on November 4th. Attention, Pennsylvania, you can bring back the rule of law and stand up for the Constitution. There are 3 radical Democrat Supreme Court justices on the ballot for the 10-year retention. Vote no, no, no on liberal justices Donahue, Doherty, and Wecht. These activist judges unlawfully gerrymandered your congressional maps, which led to my corrupt impeachments and locked you up during COVID by closing your small businesses, schools, and churches, and they let sex offenders out of prison, and they ruled for sleepy Joe Biden over and over and interfered with the 2020 election. It is time for justice. Vote no, no, no on the retention of these woke judges. And we saw that especially in 2020, the Supreme Court justices that unilaterally, against what's clearly written in the United States Constitution in regards to elections, extended 72 hours for voting. It should have immediately been brought back to the states as a result of that, specifically in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, let alone what took place in Atlanta, Georgia, and around the country. We know what happened in 2020, and isn't it amazing to look back on history over these last few years and realize, wow, we have really come back peacefully and patriotically. So vote tomorrow in your neck of the woods. Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for sponsoring us here on the right side of history. 25% off of ivermectin, mebendazole, and code RSBN10 for an extra 10% off. Scan the QR code there now. It's that time of year to have that right to try because of the cold and flu season. We're in the middle of it. Even strains of COVID are out there. So don't get sick. Don't go to the doctor if you don't have to. And stay ahead of all of this because urgent care lines, doctor's offices, pharmacies really can go right out the window with all of the lines out the door this time of year. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for life-saving medication. Ivermectin, mebendazole, 25% off now with code RSBN10 on all of your order From 200 essential medications, including NAD+, to methylene blue, and emergency medical kits, you can have these right at home in your medicine cabinet or even take them on the road with you for your fall foliage vacations. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN. I hope you got your trades and bets in before the World Series ended on Saturday night. Congratulations to the Dodgers on repeat championships, the first time in a quarter century in Major League Baseball. Who will win the New York City mayoral race tomorrow? Zoran Mamdani, the communist Democrat, or the Democrat turned independent Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of the Empire State? Very close. Curtis Sliwa, the back-to-back Republican nominee. A three-way race. Oh, my goodness. It will be intense to watch that, as if you go back 4 years ago, it was Eric Adams, the Democrat, versus Curtis Sliwa. Curtis won Staten Island, very Republican, but lost the other four boroughs. We know that the other boroughs are three of them really in the hands of Mamdani right now, but do not let that stop you from going out and voting and letting your voice be heard. But what say you on this? You can trade on all of that, including Bitcoin hitting 150,000 before March of 2026. Will it happen? Scan the QR code there now, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Thank you to angelpaste.com, the miracle that is the vitamin B original miracle cream. I love to use it every single day. You've seen me use it right here on the network. Also, the orange option, a vitamin C infused. Great for this time of year to protect yourself against the cold and flu season. Also, the natural facial spray. So many products to explore and experience the miracle that is angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas. A wonderful place to live off the Gulf of America. Whether it's that first date, that 50th wedding anniversary, whatever it might be, angelpaste.com can assist you in your painting the town red. It's a miracle that is so wonderful to have. Some of these other creams have countless ingredients. You don't recognize the dyes, and ultimately, you don't want that to go on your skin and be absorbed by your system. Not to worry with this Christian-owned, veteran hiring miracle known as angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As we're getting to the bottom of the hour, 11:30 on the East Coast in your federal city, and 8:30 in the morning on that golden West Coast. We'll take a quick commercial break. You're watching Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network as we cover the latest inside and outside of the Beltway, the Trump White House, and your Congress. Now, day 34 of the shutdown. In case you missed that earlier in the broadcast, we started off with House Speaker Mike Johnson and an update from the Republican leadership team. And it's very clear that this Senator Chuck Schumer shutdown, along with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, this is the New York City shutdown because they are afraid of what may come tomorrow with a potential election of Zohran Mamdani, the communist Democrat who claims that he was more worried about his aunt riding the subway rather than those who had to take their own lives, in some cases burning alive during September 11th. It's an extraordinary disconnect as we've seen him make promises, and God forbid he does succeed tomorrow, will be promises he cannot keep, because it's a laundry list of wanting to take over things like farmers markets, some of the most affordable things. They're the most well-run entities within New York City. But no, he wants government to do that. Makes a lot of sense. Of course, that's in jest. But it's something we're watching here as President Trump, his recent appearance, not only last night in an exclusive interview from Mar-a-Lago, the press gaggle we had from the earlier hour, we'll replay that to catch the latest from the President of the United States on the shutdown, on the Christian slaughter happening in Nigeria, also international security, and especially what's taking place in Venezuela. President Trump touching on all of this en route from Palm Beach International last night to Joint Base Andrews and ultimately the White House.
How are you? Hope you had a nice weekend.
We did.
Everyone good?
How are you doing? Do you have a
I'm good. I guess we're doing 60 Minutes tonight, but I'm not sure we're going to be in the plane. We may be midstream, we'll see. But I think they did a good job. We'll let you know. We'll see how they cut it. So, do you have any questions?
On Nigeria, just wanted to ask you, do you envisage US boots on the ground?
Could be. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Mr. President, what's going on with Russian assets, would you say? Are you going to use those as a negotiating tool? What's Europe saying on the frozen Russian assets? So what are you planning to do?
This is a totally different question than Nigeria,
yes,
so right?
Different.
That was quite a turn. I'm not doing that. What happens is, I guess Europe and Russia are having discussions. I'm not involved in those discussions.
Will your administration provide Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles? Is that something that you're not considering that?
No, not really.
Mr. President, on Friday,
If it happened, I could change, but at this moment, I'm not.
What would be the final straw for you that proves that Putin is really not ready to end this?
What?
What would be the final straw for you that proves that Putin is really not ready to end this war?
There's no final straw. Sometimes you have to let it fight out. They're fighting it out. It's been a tough war for Putin. He's lost a lot of soldiers, maybe 1 million. That's a lot of soldiers. And it's been tough for Ukraine. It's been tough for both. Sometimes you have to let it, just get bought out. We have, I've settled 8 wars. I thought that one would be easier than some of the ones we settled. And by the way, we got 3 hostages back. The hostages were so sad. We're talking about dead bodies, which people call hostages, but I don't know what you'd call them. I spoke to the parents. We got Nutra, from New York and from the United States, and I spoke to his parents, and they're thrilled in one sense, but in another sense, obviously, it's not too great. But we're very happy to have done it. We got 3 bodies back today that they found, and we're looking for the remainder of the bodies.
Are you going to the Supreme Court on Wednesday?
What?
Are you going to go to the Supreme Court for the tariffs?
I think it's the most important decision, one of the most important decisions in the history of our country. Because without tariffs, without our being able to use tariffs freely, openly, and in every way, we would suffer tremendously from a national security standpoint. our country is at stake. It's the biggest, I think it's one of the biggest decisions in the history of the Supreme Court. Other countries use tariffs against us. If we weren't able to openly and freely use tariffs against them, I'll give you an example. China. That was going to be a disaster for the world, and I was able to settle it very quickly, very easily, because I was able to use tariffs. It's total national security. And economic health is also part of national security, by the way. But without tariffs, our country would be in great jeopardy.
So will you attend the oral arguments?
No, I don't think so, because I don't want to call a lot of attention to me. It's not about me, it's about our country. I'll be going to Miami. I'm going to make a speech in front of a large group of people in Miami, and said I wanted to go so badly. I just don't want to do anything to deflect the importance of that decision. If we don't have tariffs, we don't have national security. And the rest of the world would laugh at us, because they've used tariffs against us for years and took advantage of us. And you see what's happened. We've become wealthy. Our stock market hit a record high on Friday. A record high. It's hit 48 record highs during my term. And a large part of that's because of tariffs and our good trade deals. Without that, you couldn't make a good trade deal. And you know, we were subject to being abused by a lot of other countries, including China, for years. Not anymore. Tariffs have brought us tremendous national security.
Venezuela. Is there a deadline for Venezuela to act against these alleged drug gangs?
I don't ever set deadlines. I do what I do, but I don't set whether it's Venezuela or anything else. I don't set deadlines.
You said that it's not true that you've made a decision on striking in Venezuela, but are there actual plans for those strikes in the near future?
Well, how can I answer a question like that? Are there plans for a strike on Venezuela? Who would say that? Supposing there were, would I say that to you honestly? Yes, we have plans. We have very secret plans. Who would say that? You know, what kind of a question is it? Look, we'll see what happens with Venezuela. Venezuela sent us thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people from prisons, from mental institutions, drug addicts, and so did other countries. That's the bad. I mean, other countries did it too, because we were run by very stupid people, very, very stupid people. Biden was the worst president in the history of our country by far. We had open borders, and many countries, the Congo, many countries, they sent their prisoners. They sent prisoners. They sent drug dealers. They sent drug addicts. They sent anybody that they didn't want. They sent them through our country. And Venezuela was one of the worst abusers. Well, all they have to do is open up the country. You know, we voted 14 times to open the country. We have voted 14 times to open the country, and they vote to keep it closed. All they have to do is vote to open the country, and we only need 5 Democrats. They have a lot of Democrats. We only need 5. But the Republicans have voted 14 times to open the country.
You directed your lawyers on Snap. You directed your lawyers on Snap benefits. You put out that True Social post on Friday, directing your lawyers to look into whether or not you can move around funds. What did they get back to you to find out if you can pay?
It's a much easier situation than that. If they vote to open the country and it's opened up immediately, we don't even have to think about that.
Mr. President, I wanted to ask about Prince Andrew in the UK has had his royal titles stripped away because of the Epstein scandal. I know you're close to the royal family there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I feel very badly. I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That's been a tragic situation. And it's too bad. I mean, I feel badly for the family.
Are you still planning to meet with Jensen Huang? Have you spoken with him after your talk? Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, the CEO of NVIDIA?
Yeah, I've spoken to him. What about it?
So are you planning to meet with him? You said when you were...
I mean, look, he's one of the great geniuses of our time. His chips are 10 years ahead of anybody else's. And, you know, I meet with him all the time. It's a great American company. It's now the biggest company in the world. So what would you like to know? I mean, NVIDIA is really just a brilliant company. The chips are 10 years. The new Blackwell that just came out, it's 10 years ahead of every other chip. But there's nothing to meet with other than say, congratulations. But no, we don't give that chip to other people.
Are you meeting with the Syrian president?
We don't give that chip to other people.
Are you meeting with the Syrian president at the White House? Or did you invite him? The Syrian president? The Syrian president?
He may be coming. I don't know. I mean, he's working very hard. We took sanctions off of Syria to give them a chance at survival. And I hear he's doing a very good job. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to try and watch 60 Minutes, but I may be delayed. Let's see if they treat me better than they treat other people. Although, I do say this, they treated Kamala very well. In fact, they changed her answers. I will try, but we may land just as it starts, right? It's a very split second. But thank goodness for TiVo, or something thereof, right? TiVo. We love TiVo. We love TiVo.
Thank you to covepeer.com/RSBN for all of your reverse osmosis needs. With a machine that is powered by Clearwave technology, they really are leading this area of American life. And it's so crucial because if you remember Flint, Michigan, and the lead that seeped into the drinking water, that can lead to stomach issues, to bladder cancer, brain cancer, kidney failure. You just don't need it other than healthy, pure water to drink on a daily basis. JAMA Pediatrics also putting out a study of students, young children drinking from the tap on a regular basis can lead to 2 or more points being gone from their IQ, losing that. And we know that education has changed so much and lost education opportunities and other issues as a result of COVID and the lockdowns. So who needs to add to that crisis? The way to solve it very simply, not through luxury, but rather necessity, with covepeer.com/RSBN. Protect what matters most. Utah and Florida also implementing legislation to tackle fluoride and pesticides, also agricultural runoff in the water system. So protect what matters most. Drink pure, live pure. covepeer.com/RSBN. $200 off now and get rid of that stress in your life with tnusa.com/RSBN. Yes, it's Tax Network USA. Settle those back taxes today. Call today. Do not delay. 800-357-1415. Protect yourself from the IRS. Settle the back taxes now. And these are experts on the other side. They've worked for the IRS. They're accountants. They just know a lot about how to handle all this. So in case you had any issues on April 15th, any issues October 15th, or just this year in general, or back taxes that are going back years now, I behoove you to reach out to Tax Network USA. It's tnusa.com/RSBN, 800-357-1415. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as we'll run through some truths President Trump over the course of this weekend, or even the last few hours, with number 7, Mr. Producer, the killing of Christians in Nigeria. It's just an awful thing happening. If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the United States of America will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria, and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing. To completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities, I am hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attacked our cherished Christians. Warning, Nigerian government better move fast. And the Secretary of War, with cut number 8, Mr. Hegseth, following up on that directly, saying, yes, sir, the killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and anywhere must and immediately end. The Department of War is preparing for action. Either the Nigerian government protects Christians, or we will kill the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. And the Secretary of War also, speaking to the meeting with the Chinese with cut number 9 about this partnership, I just spoke to President Trump and we agreed the relationship between the United States and China has never been better. Following President Trump's historic meeting with Chairman Xi in South Korea, I had an equally positive meeting with my counterpart, China's Minister of National Defense, the Admiral Doug John, in Malaysia. And we spoke again last night. The Admiral and I agree that peace, stability, and good relations are the best path for our two great and strong countries. As President Trump said, the historic G2 meeting set the tone for everlasting peace and success in the United States and China. The Department of War will do the same: peace through strength, mutual respect, and a positive relationship. Admiral Doug and I agreed that we should set up military-to-military channels to deconflict and de-escalate the problems that arise. We have more meetings on that coming soon. God bless both China and the United States of America. As changing some topics here with Cut 12, Mr. Producer, back here stateside, and something that the Japanese Empire appreciates as well with some of their players on the team. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers. A game won by incredible champions. A lesser group of men would never have been able to win that game, or Game 6 for that matter. So many stars made it all happen. Also, congratulations to ownership. What a great job they have done. See you all at the White House. President Donald J. Trump for that second tour. And it was fun to watch Pia Toscano sing the national anthem to open up the game. I mean, this is a World Series to be remembered. The longest game happening in the middle of the series, and that going nearly 7 hours. I think about 6 hours, 49 minutes. Really a remarkable entertainment if you enjoy the world of sports, especially as we close out the baseball season for next year. And the repeat champions, the Dodgers, really pulling it off. And congratulations as well to the Toronto Blue Jays, an amazing team. And I'm sure they will be at the big dance again, if not next year, very soon. And we will watch all of that. Pia is pretty fantastic as well. I had the opportunity to meet her a couple of weeks ago at the Andrea Bocelli concert that I got to be part of the Atlanta choral artists together. So that was a special moment to celebrate the arts and entertainment and this golden era of America. Sports and culture, music, really a crossroads of all this, not just the politics that matter, but these other things that we enjoy seeing as great competitors here in America. Also, to a great competitor, Cut number 13, happy birthday, Mr. Gary Player. What a great golfer, great South African American. He loves this country. He loves his native South Africa as well. Happy birthday to the great Gary Player, winner of 18 majors, 9 regular, 9 senior, and 168 tournaments. He is top 3 of all time. He's 90 years old and stronger than ever. Had the opportunity to see him at the Masters as well, the par 3 competition, and he kicks out his leg like he's 20 years old or something. I mean, the guy is really something special. So, Gary Player, happy birthday. And number 14, Seth Meyers, you are totally terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Seth Meyers of NBC may be the least talented person to perform live in the history of television. In fact, he may be the worst to perform live or otherwise. I watched his show the other night for the first time in years. In it, he talked endlessly about electric catapults on aircraft carriers, which I complain about as not being as good, as much less expensive, steam catapults. On and on he went, truly deranged lunatic. Why does NBC waste its time and money on a guy like this? No talent, no ratings, 100% anti-Trump, which is probably illegal. And ultimately with Cut number 15, the case on tariffs. President Trump, this is a big one this week. This case on tariffs by the Supreme Court to be determined in the course of perhaps this week, as President Trump stating next week's case on tariffs is one of the most important in the history of the country. If a president is not allowed to use tariffs, we will be at a major disadvantage against all other countries throughout the world, especially the majors. In a true sense, we would be defenseless. Tariffs have brought us great wealth and national security in the 9 months that I have had the honor to serve as president. The stock market has hit an all-time high many times during my short time in office with virtually no inflation and national security that is second to none. Our recent successful negotiation with China and many others put us in a strong position only because we had tariffs with which to negotiate fair and sustainable deals. If a president was not able to quickly and nimbly use the power of the tariffs with which to negotiate all of these deals, then we would be defenseless, leading perhaps even to the ruination of our nation. And the only people fighting for us are foreign countries who have for years taken advantage of our markets and hate our country, and the Democrats because our numbers are insurmountably good. Now, I will not be going to the court on Wednesday in that I do not want to distract from the importance of the decision. It will be, in my opinion, one of the most historic and consequential decisions ever made by the United States Supreme Court. If we win, we'll be the richest, most secure country anywhere in the world by far. And if we lose our country, it could be reduced to almost third world status. So pray to God that doesn't happen. And it's surprising what the courts really, quite frankly, are deciding on. Article 3 is clear that it is not supposed to rule on some of the things it has been ruling on over the course of the last decade or so. But we know that some of those wrongs being corrected over the course of this term. Thank you to Crypto.com, this exciting new CRO strategy happening with Trump Media Group and Crypto.com. Get in on the action. Join today. Very, very, very historic. It's a $6.4 billion acquisition being provided, and Trump Media Group and Crypto coming together on this. Something to watch very closely. It might seem strange or weird, but it's another way to diversify your assets in 2025. So the CRO market really changing as a result of this. And the group behind True Social, Trump Media Group, teaming up with Crypto.com. Get in on the action today by visiting Crypto.com. Also, thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. Mr. Mike Lindell providing, again, the 6-piece towel set back in stock. This normally goes for $70. It's now under $40 at $39.98. A very limited quantity at mypillow.com/RSBN. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. It is the purveyor of freedom of speech, the fighter for election integrity, and all-around great guy. All the products made in Minnesota, right here in America. Thanks to Mike Lindell, mypillow.com/RSBN for over 2,000 products. If you like what you see, please feel free to support us at rsbnetwork.com/donate or text RSBN to 801-801 as we take on a legacy media. We bring you the truth. We cover your 45th and 47th president of the United States, the 50th vice president who hit the meme charts just this weekend with his Halloween outfit. That was pretty fun. Right on the heels of an outstanding speech at Ole Miss for the Turning Point USA Tour, Turning Point Tour, as it's aptly been called. When's the last time you saw a vice president take unscreened or non-screened questions from college students? It's a historic administration. You put it all into place last year on November 5th. We also covered the 119th Congress, and we bring you right to the speeches, right to the press conferences, right to those hearings, so you know what your government is up to in real time. If you'd like to send a check or a money order, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains. It's Auburn, Alabama, 36830. It's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for your support on the right side of history, as we had the great opportunity of interviewing former DHS agent known for The Sound of Freedom. He was played by Jim Caviezel in that remarkable film, disturbing film, but opening the eyes of countless people right here in America and around the world. Tim Ballard at it again with Hidden War, out November 14th. That great interview taking place just an hour ago, roughly. So scrub back after the broadcast if you did not catch it. Here is the trailer just released to see on November 14th. It's tragic and disturbing to think about that this exists in 2025. It's modern slavery, from labor trafficking to human trafficking, sex trafficking, especially of children, minors, crimes that are not soon forgotten, scars that are left perhaps indelibly forever on these people that don't deserve it. And it goes on all over the world. And Tim is one of those brave souls that has taken on that lawfare, as he explained, from people within his church, the hierarchy, to outside forces and NGOs. So it's incumbent upon us to educate ourselves about these issues, to support rescue missions and anti-trafficking outlets, especially getting the word out about an extraordinary docufilm that will be Hidden War, coming to you in roughly 11 days from now. So spread the word about Tim Ballard's Hidden War, a documentary you must see in order to equip yourself, and especially for the men out there. How do we protect the children, whether if we have children of our own or not, especially if you have young ones in your family? I'm sure you would do everything you can to protect them from monsters that exist throughout the world. And sadly, it's a horrible fact. The United States of America is the largest consumer of this trafficking. And God will hopefully end all of it. But what can you do in the meantime? You can vote. You can be aware. You can be involved in organizations that are combating this around the world. And ultimately, you can plead with friends on the other side of the aisle about this discussion of an open border versus a closed border. Secretary Kennedy stating early this year that it's very possible, given what's been disclosed and what they now know, that those 300,000 children that went missing during the Auto Pen administration, thousands now recovered and found due to an open border, and that Health and Human Services, being such a big agency that it was, may have been partially responsible for that trafficking. And that's horrible to think about, that our own government turned a blind eye under the Democrat Auto Pen administration, something that is incredibly vile and should unite us all as Americans, regardless of Republican, Democrat, Independent. But we know where the National Democrat Party stands. They wanted to replace their voters with people who are dependent completely upon government. That's why they've created the shutdown. Day 34 of this, as we covered it all throughout the broadcast, and with House Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republican leadership giving us updates on that. As we thank allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's cold and flu season, and arm yourself with life-saving medication. Now 25% off for ivermectin, mebendazole, to go on a parasite cleanse, or simply to have things like NAD plus or methylene blue, a good way to help with sleep and counter dementia and Alzheimer's as science continues to dive into these life-saving generics. RSBN 10, an additional 10% off of the other medications, over 200 essentials and emergency medical kits, which you can keep in the medicine cabinet or take on the road with you. For an extra 10% off, scan that QR code now, and 25% off, back to that deal, with ivermectin and mebendazole specifically. It's only a pharmaceutical note. If no insurance, no hassle, no red tape, no bureaucracy, you're all set to go with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And with the storm building up in cold and flu season and that strain of COVID out there, there's also a financial storm brewing. Monetary Gold can help protect you with all of that. Wealth, security, preservation. Grab the complimentary Presidential Gold Guide today. Call today, don't delay. It's 888-617-7994. Ask how you can eliminate your annual IRA fees for life permanently at rsbnforthegold.com. For years, the signs have been clear with printing of money and the storm beneath the dollar, with BRICS nations looking to divest. Gold breaking through at $4,000 an ounce, $50 or more for silver. It's all logic, not just luck. Government, when they print money, it creates inflation. That's the way they try to have a hidden tax to pay off their debt, but it goes against the American people. Gold and silver rise to help solve those problems, whether it's owning that first or second home or simply creating generational wealth. Monetary Gold is the best to go to in this business at rsbnforthegold.com. Get rid of those IRA fees and start diversifying with gold and silver. Thank you for joining us today on Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. For All America First updates and exclusive offers, like, share, subscribe, spread the word, rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. Also for the written word and a deep dive into analysis of what's happening inside the federal city and your neck of the woods at noon Eastern, still 9 o'clock on that golden West Coast. For all of my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, thank you for joining us today. May God be with you. I'm Robert McNeely. We'll see you all week. Election day tomorrow. Get out and vote if you did not have a plan, if you did not do it early. New York City, New Jersey, Virginia, even my neck of the woods, the Peach State of Georgia, a big statewide election, plus those municipal ones. It's the government that affects you closest to the people. Do not miss your municipal elections tomorrow. We'll be with you all week. Until then, have a great day, and we'll see you soon. God bless.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed, so join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.